I guess on the first episode I said, my cars are going to shape the world.
I just feel like my skills are better. Like, I don't know, I just feel better behind a tool.
This thing's looking like she's going to take off. Something like that, eh? All that in there. All can be welded to that. See that nice curve there? That's a good curve. That's a good curve.
Chad Hiltz was accused of stealing another man's design, and his response tore apart the entire custom car world. Buried in the controversy were questions about design ownership and creative theft. And when accusations flew, Chad didn't back down even as the industry watched to see who was right. Did Bad Chad truly steal another man's design? Or does this prove that digital dreams can't survive metal reality? Join us as we find out what was truly hidden inside Bad Chad's controversial truck build.
Left the bottom, didn't weld any of that. He welded the two top rows solid completely and never touched any of that, never touched any of the bottom. Well, that makes me ugly because they're supposed to be spread around. Yeah, I know he's trying to help, but this set is backwards and we haven't got time to backstep.
The builder who could make Bugattis from chicken coops. The accusation came first, and it landed hard. A digital car designer claimed Chad Hiltz had stolen his idea, copied it, and passed it off as his own. The claim spread fast online and immediately put Chad's reputation on the line, especially because his entire career had been built on doing things his own way, far from the usual rules of the automotive world. To understand why the accusation mattered so much, it helps to know where Chad works and how he got there. He operates out of rural Chetwynd, Nova Scotia, in a self-built shop that looks closer to a scrapyard than a polished custom garage. There is no showroom, no expensive machinery, and no signs pointing visitors in. Despite that, Chad became known across the custom car scene as Bad Chad, a builder who could take unusable metal and turn it into fully working vehicles that looked unlike anything else on the road. His cars are not restorations or mild custom jobs. One of his best-known builds, the Green Goblin, started as a 1962 Chrysler, but ended up with the engine in the rear, the trunk placed in the middle, and only one door that opens the opposite way most people expect. Another build, the Bat Out of Hell, includes household hardware like kitchen cabinet knobs used as exterior trim and a large fin running down the body. These design choices are real, documented builds that gained attention because they worked, not because they followed accepted rules. Chad did not come up through trade school or the automotive industry. He grew up with limited money, dropped out of school early, and learned fabrication by necessity. Every skill he has came from trial, failure, and rebuilding. He learned how metal behaves by ruining it first, then fixing it. He relies on basic tools and parts pulled from junkyards, boats, old airplanes, and farm equipment. This approach keeps costs low and explains why he often says he works within a working person's budget rather than a professional shop's budget. That way of working stayed local for years until 2016, when his fiancée, Jolene McIntyre, began sharing weekly updates online of a Bugatti-style build Chad was making. Jolene, who holds a commerce degree from St. Mary's University, also manages the business side of the shop. Her consistent posts documented the process in detail and reached far beyond Nova Scotia. By 2018, Discovery Channel had taken notice. Bad Chad Customs premiered on New Year's Day in 2019, turning a previously unknown rural builder into a television personality. The show follows Chad alongside Jolene, his son Colton, who is learning the trade, his longtime friend Aaron, and mechanic Alex. Together, they build cars from discarded metal that go on to win awards at recognized automotive shows. The series focused on creativity under constraints, not luxury budgets, and that message resonated with viewers. That visibility also brought criticism. Chad's builds often blend design elements from different decades and manufacturers. This is common in custom car culture, where builders study existing cars for proportions, lines, and mechanical solutions. The accusation from Rick Hoover, a digital renderer known for computer-generated custom car images, challenged whether Chad had crossed a line. Hoover claimed one of his renderings had been used without permission as the basis for a real-world build. For Chad, the issue was not just legal or professional. It questioned the foundation of how he and many others work. He had built a career on hands-on problem-solving, not computer models. The accusation forced him to explain whether borrowing ideas was theft or simply how custom building has always functioned. What Chad explained next forced the custom car world to question where originality truly begins and ends. Every legend, built on stolen ideas. Chad's reaction comes out while his hands keep moving on the doors that cause the whole argument. He does not stop working, but his frustration is clear. He understands that Rick Hoover created a digital rendering of a 1934-style sedan delivery, and he openly acknowledges that the image looks good. He saw it online, studied it, and even showed support for it. What he cannot accept is the idea that looking at a digital image and then building a real vehicle equals stealing. To Chad, the accusation ignores how design actually works. He believes that if someone claims ownership over a look, they also need to explain where that look came from in the first place. No design appears out of thin air. Every shape, line, and proportion comes from something that already existed. Hoover's rendering follows patterns that were set long before modern design software existed, whether that is intentional or not. Sedan delivery vehicles first appeared in the early 1930s as commercial cars with enclosed rear cargo areas. Ford produced sedan deliveries from 1932 through 1940, and the 1936 to 1940 versions used smooth side panels with no rear side windows. Rounded door tops were factory features on 1934 Ford passenger cars. The overall stance, beltline height, and roof profile seen in modern renderings trace directly back to these original vehicles. These are documented production designs, not modern inventions. Chad points out that every builder in the custom car world borrows ideas this way. He uses well-known names to make the point clearer. Dave Kindig is known for flush door handles, but flush-mounted handles existed on high-end European coach-built cars as early as the 1910s. Brands like Rolls-Royce and Hispano-Suiza used recessed handles on custom bodies long before modern custom shops existed. Examples of these designs are still displayed in museums, like the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. Chip Foose is often associated with tight, tucked bumpers, but production cars began using closely fitted bumpers decades ago, due to safety regulations and aerodynamic efficiency. Custom exhaust tips, another popular feature, also come straight from modern factory cars that hide or integrate exhaust outlets for cleaner styling. These ideas did not originate with individual builders, but were adapted and reworked over time. Chad also explains that the techniques used on the truck itself are not new. Sectioning, which removes a horizontal slice from a body to reduce height, was widely used in the 1950s and 1960s. The Alexander brothers became famous for this approach, and their cars appeared regularly in hot rod magazines of the era. Channeling, where the body is lowered over the frame, was also common in post-war custom builds. These methods are documented parts of custom car history. From Chad's perspective, the criticism only flows one way. Digital artists borrow freely from history and call it design, but physical builders are accused of theft for doing the same thing. He sees that as a double standard. The truck he is building does not contain any parts made by Hoover. Every piece is cut, shaped, welded, and fitted by Chad himself. He stresses the difference between making an image look right and making a vehicle work, A digital rendering does not address structural integrity, weight distribution, door operation, or safety. It does not require solving problems caused by sectioning a body or reinforcing a modified frame. Chad is dealing with real forces, real materials, and real limitations. That difference matters to him because it defines ownership. Inspiration is not possession. Building something with working doors, proper alignment, and a usable structure requires decisions that go far beyond appearance. Chad believes credit belongs to the person who turns an idea into a functioning object, not the one who stops at the screen. But the next example would force everyone to confront one mistake nobody had noticed yet: structural failure, hidden in pretty pixels. Chad delivers what becomes his strongest argument by pointing to something that already happened, not a theory or a defense made after the fact. Earlier, while building a custom Volvo, he openly used a digital rendering made by Rick Hoover as visual inspiration. He never denied that connection and never tried to hide it. What mattered was what happened next, once the build moved from a screen to a real car made of steel. When Chad began turning that Volvo from an idea into a working vehicle, he quickly ran into a problem that the rendering never addressed. The roofline shown in the image looked right visually, but cutting a real roof that way would have caused the body to lose its strength almost immediately. The issue was not opinion or pride. It was a basic vehicle structure. A car roof is not just there to keep rain out. It is a major structural piece that ties the front of the body to the rear and keeps everything from twisting when the car moves. In most production cars, the roof connects the A-pillars at the windshield to the C-pillars at the back. Together with the floor, they form a box that resists torsional flex. That resistance keeps door gaps from changing, prevents cracks from forming in welds, and allows the suspension to work as designed. Removing or heavily modifying that roof without adding strength elsewhere causes the body to flex under normal driving forces, especially when cornering or hitting uneven pavement. If Chad had followed the digital image exactly, the Volvo would have folded under its own stress. That is not an exaggeration. Cars that lose torsional rigidity can twist enough to jam doors, crack glass, and tear metal at stress points. Over time, or even within a short drive, the structure can fail. A digital rendering does not account for any of that because it does not need to. To make the Volvo safe and usable, Chad had to redesign the structure from the inside out. He built a hidden steel framework under the door sills, tying it into reinforced pillars at the front and rear. The sills, which run along the bottom of the body between the wheels, had to be made taller and stronger to replace the strength lost when the roof was altered. Additional bracing was added inside areas no one would ever see, including gussets at key junctions and reinforcement in the floor and bulkheads. None of those changes appeared in the final look of the car, but without them, the car would not survive normal driving. These decisions required understanding load paths, stress points, and how forces move through a body under acceleration, braking, and cornering. They also required time, materials, and problem-solving that a computer image never demands. The rendering could place lines wherever they looked good. The computer did not care whether the car would twist or collapse. Chad had to care, because once the car moved under its own power, physics would decide whether the work was right or wrong. The finished Volvo could be driven anywhere, not trailered as a static display. Chad also points out that many visible elements on the finished car never came from the rendering at all. The lift-off roof design, the headlights inspired by a 1937 Ford, the custom grille, the bumpers, and the running boards were all decisions made during the build. The overall concept drew from familiar shapes, including ideas seen on 1940 Ford designs, which are common reference points across the custom world. That overlap is expected, not owned. What mattered most was what Chad left out, Any part of the digital image that could not work in the real world was discarded. That is how building differs from drawing. Builders keep what functions and remove what fails under real conditions. That process creates a working vehicle rather than an illustration. How many admired designs online would fail once real metal, weight, speed, and physics intervene? Why respect can't be given to those who haven't earned it. As Chad works on the doors that started the argument, he explains how he thinks about respect and credit in creative work. For him, respect is something people earn by doing real work, not something handed out because someone asks for it. That mindset comes from years of surviving without money, training, or industry connections, where results were the only thing that mattered. In his view, Rick Hoover has not earned gratitude because he has not done the kind of work that proves commitment, risk, and responsibility. Chad does not deny that making a digital image takes time and ability. He simply does not place it on the same level as building a vehicle that must hold together, function safely, and survive real driving. Fabrication means understanding materials, heat, stress, and failure. It means cutting steel that cannot be replaced easily and solving problems that show up only after hours of work. A computer image does not demand that kind of accountability. His personal code works on balance. If someone shows him respect, he returns it. If someone attacks him publicly and questions his honesty, he sees no reason to offer anything in return. From his perspective, Hoover's accusation went beyond criticism and crossed into disrespect by implying Chad's success came from copying rather than skill. That accusation ignored the fact that Chad alone took on the physical labor, the engineering risks, and the responsibility for whether the vehicle worked or failed. Chad sees this attitude as part of a wider problem. He believes many people expect recognition without contribution, especially in creative fields shaped by social media. There is an assumption that influence alone deserves credit, even when that influence stops at an idea. In this case, Hoover created an image. Chad turned metal into a working truck. The gap between those two efforts is where Chad believes entitlement shows itself. What gives Chad confidence is not talk, but proof. His cars have won awards at major shows, drawn international attention, and earned a television series on the Discovery Channel. Those achievements are measured by finished vehicles that can be driven, judged, and tested in public. Each build leaves his shop under its own power, and that outcome matters more to him than online approval. Critics can argue from a distance, but they cannot match his output. That same mindset shapes how Chad teaches his son Colton, who works beside him every day, learning the trade. Chad pays close attention to how Colton uses materials. When Colton cuts metal longer than needed and trims it down, Chad stops him and explains why that matters. Extra metal is not harmless waste. It could later become a patch panel, a bracket, or a spacer. Throwing it away means losing a future solution. Then there is Jolene McIntyre, who plays a key role in protecting the work coming out of the shop. As Chad's fiancée and business manager, she keeps track of everything. When the accusation surfaced, she immediately began documenting the door build in detail. She photographed each stage, saved comments from critics, and organized timelines showing when design decisions were made. When claims appeared online suggesting Chad had accessed additional designs, Jolene produced dated photos proving the doors were already in progress before those images were shared. Her organization gave Chad peace of mind. Nothing happened in the shop without her knowing, and nothing said online went unnoticed. That preparation mattered in case the dispute moved beyond online arguments. Chad also criticizes how social media blurs the line between people who draw cars and people who build them. Online polls often treat both as equal choices when asking who should create a vehicle. To Chad, That makes as little sense as treating someone who draws anatomy as if they were a surgeon. Both have value, but they do not carry the same responsibility. While arguments continued online, something else was happening quietly. Experienced judges within the custom car world were examining the finished work, not the comments. They were about to deliver a verdict based on results, not opinions. But judges delivered a verdict that changed everything and left critics suddenly very quiet, right? Awards that proved the industry knows the difference. While Rick Hoover's claims spread online and his supporters argued loudly, the people who mattered most in the custom car world were reaching a very different conclusion. At the World of Wheels show in Boston, Chad entered several finished builds and left with 3 major awards. World of Wheels is not a casual event. It attracts builders from across North America, professional judges with decades of fabrication experience, and crowds that often reach tens of thousands over the weekend. Winning there carries weight, especially for someone working out of rural Nova Scotia with limited resources. Boston was Chad's first major American show, and the results were clear. The judges focused on how the cars were built, not how they looked in photos. They evaluated structural work, fit, and finish, and whether the cars functioned as real machines. Chad earned the Master Builder title and first place in the Radical Custom category, awards that are only given after close technical inspection. These honors are based on measurable standards, not opinions. Master Builder recognition requires consistent weld quality, proper penetration across different metals, and clean joints that hold under stress. Judges check panel gaps that must stay even down to fractions of an inch. They look for hidden reinforcements that keep modified bodies safe and rigid. They also expect custom parts to replace factory components when originals no longer fit. None of these details can be seen in a digital rendering. They only exist once metal is cut, shaped, and welded together. Chad followed the Boston results with even more success at the Castrol Radical Speed Sports Show in Moncton, New Brunswick. There, he earned 4 additional awards. Together, these results showed consistency across different judging panels and different events. This was not a lucky weekend or friendly judging. It was repeat recognition for the same approach Chad was using on the controversial sedan delivery. The sedan delivery itself was not entered because it was still under construction, but Chad's other builds made his process clear. Judges inspecting the Green Goblin could see how he solved the challenge of mounting a rear engine in a chassis designed for a front engine. They examined the custom structure that kept the car strong despite radical changes. They studied the single-door layout and how it avoided twisting the body. These were the same types of problems Chad was actively solving on the sedan delivery. One moment in Boston stood out. A veteran judge spent about 15 minutes inspecting a section truck Chad had built. He ran his hands along the welds where Chad had removed 2 inches of height from the body. The seams were smooth, aligned, and nearly invisible. The body looked factory-built, even though it had been completely reworked. Achieving that required internal reinforcement, altered mounting points, and custom metal sections that restored strength after material was removed. That inspection mattered more than any online argument. It came from someone who understood how difficult that work is because he had done similar jobs himself. He recognized craftsmanship that only exists when someone understands metal, load paths, and long-term durability. That kind of validation cannot be faked or borrowed. These awards made something clear within the industry. Builders are judged on execution, not inspiration. The difference between a concept and a finished vehicle is where real skill shows. Chad was not following someone else's blueprint. He was making decisions as problems appeared, adjusting designs to meet physical limits, and creating solutions that only exist once metal meets reality. But trophies were not the final proof. That proof was still taking shape in the shop, one weld at a time. Those unfinished doors were about to prove everything. Once finished, under close scrutiny, would they? The doors that proved execution beats inspiration. As Chad keeps working on the doors at the center of the dispute, his argument is built piece by piece. The truck has been sectioned, meaning a horizontal strip of metal was removed from the body to lower its overall height. That single change makes the original doors useless. They no longer fit the opening, so new ones have to be made almost entirely from scratch. This is where theory ends and real work begins. Because the body is shorter, every measurement changes. The top of the door has already been cut, reshaped and welded to match the new roofline. Chad reshapes the metal by cutting sections, bending them by hand, and slowly bringing everything together until the surface flows smoothly into the body. He has to preserve the natural curve of the door skin, known as the crown, which adds strength and keeps water from sitting on the surface. That curve has to match the body perfectly, or the door will either bind when opened or rust over time. To do that, he forms new metal using basic tools, checking his work constantly. He uses contour gauges to compare the door shape to the body, adjusting the curve a little at a time. Too much curve causes alignment issues. Too little creates weak spots. Heat from welding causes metal to expand, so relief cuts are added at key points to prevent warping. These are decisions learned through experience, not something shown in a finished image. Almost immediately, another problem appears. One of the hinges has torn loose from the door frame, creating excessive movement. The door rocks when opened, making proper alignment impossible. This is the kind of issue that never appears in a digital image. A rendered door never carries weight, never opens hundreds of times, and never stresses a hinge. Chad has to repair the mounting area before he can even think about the final fit. The bottom of the door is the most difficult part. Because of the sectioning, the original lower edge no longer lines up with the body or the running board. Chad cuts the bottom completely off and plans a new rolled edge that matches the altered body line. He works slowly, trimming small amounts of metal and test fitting repeatedly. Nothing is rushed because mistakes here would affect every step that follows. To make the bottom cap, he creates paper templates that follow the exact shape of the door opening. Those patterns are transferred to steel, cut out, and shaped to match the complex curves involved. He also leaves a precise gap around the door opening, knowing the bottom edge still needs to be installed. That planning prevents problems later and keeps the process moving forward instead of backward. Working with small, curved pieces is difficult. The smaller the piece, the harder it is to control. Chad cuts and fits as he goes, adjusting each section until it sits exactly where it needs to be. The door bottom must clear the running board by about 3/8 of an inch. That space allows room for paint and expansion while still looking tight. He checks that clearance along the entire length, using gauges and adjusting with a hammer and dolly until every point matches. He tack welds the pieces into place, locking the shape without committing fully. The door is shaky at first, but that is expected. Once everything is confirmed, the welds are finished and ground smooth. When the door is finally hung, it opens and closes cleanly. The gaps are even, the alignment is solid, and the structure feels strong. That door exists because of planning, skill, and problem solving, not because of a drawing. It is physical proof of ownership through execution. Did Chad's defense prove that builders don't owe credit to digital artists? Does this controversy show the custom car world values imagination or execution more? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.